The 2021 MLB season is here, and although the seats may not be full, your bankroll has the chance to be. Greg Hoops Peterson has you covered for every game, every day this season, along with comprehensive analysis and angles for getting to the window while celebrating the walk-off winners and blown saves of what will be a wild season. Now it is time for the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson.
A warm and friendly hello, welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson. We've got a tremendous podcast for you. It's in the second segment. We're going to be joined by William Boor. He does a great job with MLB.com along with MLB Pipeline. We're going to be chatting with him about some of the young guys that you want to watch out for the final week or so of the season because, as we know, there's a lot of September call-ups. With it being the final week of the season, these teams that, well, let's face it, they're out of the playoff hunt. They're going to be giving these guys a little bit of an opportunity, and there's plenty of guys that wound up being September call-ups that are rookies, maybe just under-the-radar guys in general, that are going to be making big impacts on postseason teams as well. So we're going to be chatting with William just about some of the unearthed gems of baseball. We're going to have some fun there. Then in the final segment, going to give you guys a side and total on every game on the betting board for this Tuesday and a little something I like to call Touch 'em All. First things first, always love to be able to answer Twitter questions. If you got one or two ways, we'll fire these in. First one is my Twitter timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind the letters EM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not wind up getting in any Twitter questions today, and it was a light slate of baseball on Monday, but with that said, our New York Post play did wind up hitting, and we had a couple nice games. So let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Not sure if we're going to get one more start or not out of Cal Quantrill, but he wound up putting together a really nice second half of the year. 8-3, the Cleveland Indians wind up taking down the Kansas City Royals for Quantrill. Gave up 2 runs or fewer in 11 out of his last 14 starts. Obviously, like I said, we might wind up getting one more start out of him, but in this one, he does wind up giving up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings, but certainly in the second half of the year has been a bet-on pitcher. From there, Trevor Seaven, Brian Shaw, Emmanuel Clase. I'll give you scoreless innings. And for the Cleveland Indians, pair of home runs in this one. You wind up having Amid Rosario get his 11th home run season, and then Bradley Zimmer his 8th. As for the Kansas City Royals, Jackson Gower, it's not been going well for him ever since he's been called up to the big leagues. Gives up 5 runs in 4 1/3 innings, as his ERA stays relatively stagnant at 11.28. From there, you wind up having Joel Payampas give you 1 1/3 innings scoreless. Gabe Spear winds up coming in for 1 1/3 innings, giving up an unearned run. And then Kyle Zimmer gives up 2 runs, one of which was earned. There was a pair of errors by Whit Merrifield and Hunter Dozier that wound up hurting them. And for Mr. Salvador Perez, if you want him to be able to wreck the apple cart when it comes to Triple Crown, pair of RBI in this one. He leads the league with 117. The Washington Nationals are trying to ruin Colorado Rockies' better weeks as they wind up getting a 5-4 win over Colorado as Josiah Gray, one of the big pieces from that Max Scherzer deal, gives up 3 runs over the course of 5 1/3 innings. From there, Austin Voth, a pair of outs out of the bullpen. Tanner Rainey gives up a run out of the bullpen, but Kyle Finnegan, Mason Thompson both deliver a scoreless inning. And for the Colorado Rockies, this was a little bit of a tough one for one. Udaman Marquez, as he actually entered into this game with more than a point lower on his ERA at home versus on the road, but gives up 4 runs over the course of 5 innings. From there, the bullpen wasn't too bad. Carlos Estevez gives up a run in an inning, but Ulysses Seen, along with Jordan Sheffield, Robert Stevenson, I'll give you scoreless innings. And for the Colorado Rockies, they go 2 of 11 with men in scoring position, stranding 11 men on base, so that was tough for them. How about a young guy having a very good start for the Cincinnati Reds, who wind up just completely dismantling the Pittsburgh Pirates by a count of 13-1. Javier San Martin winds up in his major league debut, giving up 1 run over the course of 5 2/3 innings. Looks solid at the minor league level. He's someone that the Reds can build around in future years. From there, Justin Wilson, Cionel Perez, along with Mr. Dari Moreta, were able to give you scoreless innings, and you wind up getting an out of the bullpen from Art Warren. For the Reds, a whole lot of power in this one. Joey Votto, 34th and 35th home runs of the season. Nick Castellanos, his 33rd, and Eugenio Suarez, who is hitting north of a 300 over the last 3 days, his 29th home run season, along with Jonathan India, getting his 21st home run season. For the Pirates, it has not been going well for this team as they have scored the fewest runs per game of any team out there in baseball. And Connor Overton lasted 1 inning in his start, giving up 4 runs, all of which were earned. From there, Cody Ponce gives up 4 unearned runs as he was hurt by a pair of errors by Cole Tucker along Kyle Moran in his 3 innings. From there, Kyle Keller gives up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned, and then Shelby Miller gives up 2 runs in 2 innings to actually lowers ERA to a 10.97, which when you say that is just absolutely sad. Speaking of absolutely sad, that would be the Tigers pitching on Monday as they wind up losing to the Chicago White Sox by a count of 8-7. Dallas Keuchel gets a very rare win as the White Sox have been 2-9 in his last 11 starts. He gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings. From there, Ryan Burr, Aaron Bummer both give you a scoreless inning. The real bummer, though, Mike Wright Jr. He gives up 3 runs and he didn't get a single out. Garrett Crochet from there gives up 2 runs in an inning, but Liam Hendricks puts out the fire, gets his 37th save of the season with a scoreless inning, and Yasmani Grandal, 23rd home run season ever since coming off the injured list. He's been hitting nearly a 340, and then you wind up having Eloy Jimenez get his 10th home run season. Not the start that one Matt Manning was hoping for. That is a 6.16 ERA, giving up 6 runs over the course of 3 1/3 innings, including that home run to Grandal. You wind up having Brian Garcia give you 5 outs of the bullpen. And for the Tigers, they actually have a top 8 bullpen when it comes to ERA ever since the All-Star break. Ian Krall does give up 2 runs in his 2 innings of work, but you wind up getting Alex Lang along with Jason Foley to give you a scoreless inning. And for the Detroit Tigers, a rarity, Jonathan Scope goes yard, his 21st home run of the season. It has been absolutely amazing to watch his power numbers decline, by the way, as that is his 5th home run ever since the end of June. So it had been a while for him. It had not been a while since we had won a New York Post play of the day, though, and we made it 4 in a row on Monday, 13-4. The Mariners get the job done. Chris Flexen does allow 4 runs over the course of 5 innings. He gave up 3 of those in the first inning, courtesy of a Seth Brown home run. His 17th of the season. He would settle down from there, and then Casey Sadler, Sean Doolittle, Yohan Ramirez, Matt Andriese. I'll give you a scoreless inning, and oh boy, it is not going well for Cole Irvin. He has now given up at least 3 runs in now 7 out of his last 8 starts. He gives up 5 over the course of 3 innings. And then Deolis Carrera gives up 3 runs in a third of an inning. James Caprillion comes out of the bullpen. 2 2/3 innings. He gives up 3 runs. Sam Moe gives up 2 runs in an inning. And then you wind up getting a scoreless inning out of Domingo Acevedo as the Seattle Mariners were able to get a pair of late home runs off the bat of Mitch Haniger. 36th and 37th of the season. Mariners are now 10-1 in their last 11 games against the Oakland A's. I believe that something like all but one of them have been as an underdog / a pick'em price as well. So the Seattle Mariners certainly heating up as you take a look at the wild card standings. Now they are just 1.5 games back of that second spot, and the Oakland A's at 3.5 games back. Well, it is certainly not going well for them. You know what else is not going well? Just home teams in general, as it has not necessarily been the most rosy of rides for them. You take a look at them over the last 7 days, and home teams 39-50, hitting at a rate of about 43.8%. Unders having a good time of it recently. 47 unders to 41 overs over the last 30 days, so that's a 53.4% hit rate. According to Cover's favorites, they're 52-37 this time span, so hitting at right around 58.5%. If you go to the last 30 days, favorites have actually struggled a little bit. 222-169, so hitting at a 56.8% clip. Home teams winning 48.2% of the time, 191 and 205, and overs and unders have been slightly equal, with unders having a slight edge, 190 unders and 185 overs over the last 30 days. And if you're looking at the season to date, unders hold the lead of 1,119 to 1,100, so about 50.4% of games this season have gone under. Meanwhile, home teams, they're 1,246 and 1,086, hitting at a rate of 53.4%, and favorites are 1,370 and 939, so hitting right around 59.3% of the time. So that's what we wound up seeing from Major League Baseball on Monday, and that's what we're seeing overall trend-wise. Now let's take a look at some of the young guys that might be impacting the postseason, and some of the young guys that you might want to bet on this week. We're going to be chatting with William Boor of MLB.com and MLB Pipeline about that next, right here on the Baseball Betting Podcast with myself, Greg Peterson.
Greg is calling in a pinch hitter from the Overtime Network hotline.
And we're back to MLB Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson. Great to be joined by our guest, as this man does a great job of taking a look at the stars of tomorrow. He is based out there in the great state of Arizona. As we know, that's where a lot of fall ball is played with a lot of these young guys that are looking to get in some reps prior to the season, be able to build themselves up in their organizations. As we do have William Boor joining me on the podcast. Does great work with MLB.com and MLB Pipeline, and to be able to follow him on Twitter, that is at his name, William Boor. That is W for the first name, and then his last name, Boor, Boor. So W Boor altogether is his Twitter handle. And William, great to have you aboard. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Always happy to hop on and talk some baseball with you, Greg.
I'm sure that you love what you've seen out of one of the teams that you do their top 30 list for MLB Pipeline. That'd be the St. Louis Cardinals. You do a great job of being able to take a look at the prospects of this team, and just what have you seen in general for the St. Louis Cardinals on this absolutely ridiculous 16-game win streak, because it has been a lot of the veterans. No doubt Adam Wainwright has played a big part in this. You've had guys like Paul Goldschmidt and company be able to step up. But we have seen a couple of the unheralded guys, a lot of the guys that have been under the radar for much of the year, be able to contribute on this win streak as well.
Yeah, pretty sure they're going to win the World Series and probably the next 5 and not lose for a decade or something. It's crazy. It seems like nothing can go wrong right now. Like, even if they fall behind by like a run or something, all of a sudden they score 7 the next inning. Like, just everything is going perfect. And like you said, they're getting contributions from everyone, which is, I think, obviously that's always a good sign for every team. But I think with this team, it's particularly good because they don't have, yes, you've got Adam Wainwright. Yes, you have Yadier Molina. But like, let's be honest, like, those are stars in the second half of their careers. And when you're looking at, okay, what is this Cardinals team in 2022 through 2025? We're going to need some of these younger guys, and you're getting big hits, I think 2-3 nights ago from Lars Nootbaar, and you're getting some of these younger guys to start stepping up, and you're like, okay, we're starting to see some of these younger guys who they can be, because outside of like Dylan Carlson, they don't have a ton of guys who were very high regarded prospects and big names. It's not to say that their guys weren't talented and aren't good. It's just to saying that, you know, across the industry, they weren't regarded as top 10 prospects. And the Cardinals have a history of getting guys that can produce, and it's looking like they're doing it again.
Absolutely, as we've seen guys like even a Jake Woodford be able to step up for the team. Some of the young guys in the bullpen have been able to do their part. We know that Alex Reyes wound up having trials and tribulations in August, and all of a sudden here in September, in a little bit of a new role, he's been able to do a very solid job as well. So we've seen it on all fronts with the St. Louis Cardinals, and we've seen it with quite a few of these September calls being able to have a big contribution with their team. I remember the last time you joined me on this podcast, I would say about 3 or so weeks ago, you were really taking a look at Keibert Ruiz, how he'd be able to perform for the Washington Nationals. I think we'd both be in agreement on this. So far, so good for him. We've seen quite a few of these Washington Nationals, by the way, actually look very solid. Even a guy like Josh Rogers has been able to step up for them. But of the guys that have been called up in September, or some of the guys that you feel like have been able to have some of the best goes of it? I mentioned Ruiz, but is there a couple others that really come to mind for you?
Yeah, obviously Ruiz. Well, he was up before September. I guess, actually, as I look at it, it's late August, but Matt Vierling for the Phillies has played really well. Jansen Junk has been, Angels pitcher, has been intriguing up and down. He hasn't necessarily dominated, but there's been flashes of some good stuff. That's been really intriguing. The Diamondbacks called up Geraldo Perdomo, who was a top 100 prospect in the beginning of the year. They called him up for an injury replacement. He got like 4 at-bats. That was no big deal. They sent him back down to Double-A. He really struggled in Double-A. And then they took him off. They sent him back to the complex to develop and stuff like that. And then he absolutely started tearing it up in the second half. And they recalled him Sunday. So obviously there's not a bunch of games left, but he had a strong second half. I'm not really sure how many at-bats or how much playing time he's going to get over the final week of the season. And even so, that'll be, a week of playing. So if he's great, cool. If he's bad, it's a week of playing. So it's not really all that indicative of anything. But I am kind of curious to see how that looks and if we're able to glean anything from it.
Getting back to your point on Jansen Junk, he has been able to do a solid job whenever the defense behind him has been really good. And now it goes to the age-old question. If your team loses to Junk, what does that make your team? As we do have William Boor joining me right here on the podcast. And William, something that I have a little bit of a question about, and I'm not sure if you have necessarily a good answer for this, is the team that we've seen really fall out of the postseason. That'd be the San Diego Padres. And we both noticed that in recent weeks they've been giving guys like Jake Arrieta along with Vince Velasquez starts. As we know, Arrieta wound up getting DFA'd after he wound up apparently pulling something, and then the next day was seen playing 18 holes of golf, which is just absolutely superb right there. But why do you think it was that the San Diego Padres went out and got guys like Vince Velasquez along with someone like a Jake Arrieta, rather than going to their farm system and trusting in more of these guys, because we know that Ryan Weathers was able to get some opportunities. You can tell that he wound up just wearing down in the back half of the season. But I thought that was something very curious. Like I said, if you don't necessarily have a great answer to this, no worries on that. But that's one of the most curious things I've seen all baseball season, as what just happened with the Padres these last few weeks.
Yeah, I don't have an answer, but you're right. It's curious on A, the transactional moves, and then B, just like on the field, what happened. And I think, obviously, I'm a reporter. I don't have a rooting interest. I don't necessarily care who gets in the playoffs and who wins. But like, as someone who enjoys baseball and wants the popularity of the sport to grow, and who wants, the playoffs to be interesting and all that, like, the Padres are a fun team. Watching Fernando Tatis Jr. is really cool. He's got a lot of star power. He's got a lot of marketability. And him in an October stage just would be good for the sport. That's not to take away from any other teams that are going to get in the playoffs or anything like that. But I was kind of disappointed to see the Padres, I think, officially got eliminated. That I think we've kind of known for a while. We've seen where this was headed. It's baffling. They went all out in the past couple off seasons, and you're like, okay, this team is really loading up. Obviously, championships aren't won in the off season, but you're like, okay, their roster's good. They play the first half, and you're like, okay, this team's solid. Make a couple adjustments at the trade deadline, and we're good to go. And then all of a sudden it just imploded, and you're kind of like, what happened? I don't have a good answer. It seemed like anything that could go wrong just did. We even had, I think it was Thursday or Friday, they even had a rain delay. When were there rain delays in San Diego? Like, obviously that has nothing to do with the baseball team, but one more thing that goes wrong for that team over the past 2 months of the year.
It's been absolutely insane to take a look at the Padres, because, at this point, when they signed Jake Arrieta, I think that myself and you could have pretty much given as good of a start as Jake Arrieta the way that he had been going, because I believe that teams that started Jake Arrieta in his final 12 starts went 0-12. So there you go there, as we do have William Boor joining me right here on the podcast. And then on Sunday, we wound up seeing a tremendous start from a guy that is a little bit of a young up-and-comer that I think is going to play a big part in the postseason. That'd be Shane Baz. 5 2/3 innings scoreless against the Miami Marlins. It was his second start. In his first start, he allowed 2 hits against the Toronto Blue Jays. Both of those wound up going over the fence, but I take a look at what he did at the minor league level. Had something like 12.5 strikeouts and 2 walks per 9 innings. At the AAA level, at a sub-2 ERA. This is someone I think is going to make a big impact in the postseason, along with the guy that just wound up coming off the injured list for the Tampa Bay Rays in Wander Franco. He wound up extending his on-base streak to 41 games. And I take a look at the Tampa Bay Rays, and I just feel like they're doing such a great job with their farm system. They know exactly when to call these guys up. We both recall Franco wound up getting off to a little bit of a rocky start towards the early part of the season. He has certainly come into his own. And of all the teams I think are going to be able to get contributions from some of their prospects, some of their rookies, I take a look at the Rays. I think that their rookies and their young players are going to have the biggest impact on this postseason.
Yeah, prior to the season, we had them rated as the best farm system in baseball. Wander no longer qualifies as a prospect, but if you just want to talk about their youth movement as a whole, you're seeing what he can do. Baz was someone who has been a top 100 prospect for a while. He has always had good stuff. The issue was command, and we weren't sure. We're like, hey, if you can start throwing this for strikes, you're going to be really good. Like, you're good now. You can be even better. This year, he's taken really big strides into command, blew through the minors, and now we're seeing that play out at the major league level. I think you're right. He's someone who he's thrown really well. He's proven that he can get batters out at this level, and it'll be interesting to see what they do in the playoffs. Do you use him as a starter because he's really good, or do you say, hey, you've got a really good fastball, really nasty breaking ball, we're going to just throw you through innings 4 through 6, give 100%, and let's just blow through and get stuff. They'll probably do a little bit of both because they're the Rays, and Rays in the postseason use their pitchers in all sorts of variety of ways. So that'll actually be fun to watch him. A, because I like watching young players on big stages, and B, I love watching the Rays' creativity of navigating lineups and working their way through a series.
And something I've thought about is that you might wind up seeing the Rays piggyback him along with Drew Rasmussen, because Rasmussen has been lights out ever since they put him into the starting rotation. In his last 6 starts, 2 runs or fewer given up, but he's went between 4 and 5 innings in every one of these starts. So I think that that's something that the Rays might look at. And, of course, once again, the Tampa Bay Rays wind up making a trade. They wind up giving up William Boor, but they wind up getting J.P. Feyereisen along with Rasmussen, who's going to be getting that start on Tuesday. And it always feels like the Rays get value in every single one of their trades, whether they're looking at prospects, what have you. And then when we go back to Shane Baz, that was part of the Chris Archer deal. And guess where Chris Archer is playing right now? Back with the Tampa Bay Rays, as the Pittsburgh Pirates, I would say probably made one of the worst trades in the history of baseball on that one.
I feel like if the Rays call you and say, hey, I want to discuss a trade, I would just hang up. Like, I'm not really sure. If you're offering me someone, something's probably wrong with it. And if you want someone, I need to look at them closer because I'm probably missing something. They seem to win every trade, and they don't win every trade, like, barely. It seems like they win the trade and they cover the spread and all of that.
I'm right there with you. Although I will say with that Brewers and Rays trade, it does feel like both teams wound up winning that one because with the Milwaukee Brewers, with the Milwaukee Brewers, without William Boor in the fold, this offense has been really, really bad. And the Brewers weren't getting the most out of Rasmussen, but J.P. Feyereisen was giving them some good innings out of the bullpen, but they clearly have done much better in Tampa Bay. You've got William Boor doing much better in Milwaukee. So this is one of the rare circumstances in which it feels like everyone is very happy with what wound up happening with that. But what I'm always happy about is getting you on this podcast, William. You do a great job over there at MLB.com, along with MLB Pipeline. You're doing a great job of taking a look at the stars of tomorrow. And even though the MLB regular season is going to be wrapping up in a few days, I know that you're going to be locked in on the postseason. And more importantly than that for you, you're going to be locked in on everything that's going to be going down in Arizona with regards to these winter leagues that are going to be going on as well. So let the good people at home know they're able to follow you on social media and just what you're all going to be covering these next few months in general.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at WBoor, WBOOR. For all prospect stuff, follow all of us at MLB Pipeline, spelled the way it sounds. And yeah, like you said, obviously looking forward to the playoffs, as all baseball fans are. But we've got the Arizona Fall League starting October 13th. Which is a collection of a bunch of top prospects. They play for 6 weeks. It's 30-something games in Arizona. Really exciting time to evaluate prospects. Really exciting time for baseball fans if you either live in Arizona or your audience in Vegas. If you can get to Arizona for a couple days, really fun games to go to just because you see a bunch of top prospects who are very close to breaking out and getting ready. I've seen players such as, Ronald Acuna down here, Vladimir Guerrero, Gleyber Torres. So a lot of big names come through here and play in Arizona in the fall.
Everyone gets their start somewhere, and a lot of these guys that you see excelling on the ball diamonds today, a lot of these guys wind up playing in the Winter League at some point during their careers. As we know, pretty much all players wind up going through the minor league system unless they wind up coming from overseas or something like that. And William does a great job of being able to take a look at all these prospects, giving you a glimpse as to some of the guys that are going to be excelling and are going to be taking your team to the promised land in future years. So always great to be able to get William on the podcast. Big thanks to him for joining me. Now it is that time. The podcast coming up next. I give you a sign total on every game on the MLB betting board for today and a little something I like to call Touch 'em All.
Welcome back to the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson as we're off to a quality start, and now it's time to walk it off in a grand fashion.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson. Always a pleasure to get William Boor on the podcast. He does absolutely tremendous work with MLB.com and MLB Pipeline. Certainly, we are getting towards the end of the regular season for a lot of these teams that have wound up having September call-ups and what have you. But as you heard, there's going to be quite a few guys that wound up recently getting called up that are going to be making an impact on the postseason. And hey, there's a lot of money to be made this week in MLB baseball. So big thanks to him for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast to give you a sign total on every game on the betting board for this Tuesday, and a little something like call Touch 'em All.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch 'em all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter feed at Junior_1. Going to be going in the Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, and any interleague games are going to be at the bottom. The lone exception is we do have a double dip between the Miami Marlins and the New York Mets. With one of the starters still being TBD for the Marlins, we are going to be just doing those games together. But past that, just going to be going right down the list. And that begins with that double dip. 901-902 on the betting board is game one of the Miami Marlins hitting the road face-off against the New York Metropolitans. As in this one, you've got Marcus Stroman taking the bump for the Mets and Trevor Rogers taking the bump for the Miami Marlins. Total's game is anywhere between 5.5 and 6. On the 5.5 over is anywhere between -115 and -120. Under is anywhere between even and -105. And on the 6, you pretty much flip it. Over is anywhere between even and -105. The under is anywhere between -115 and -120, with the Mets find themselves anywhere between -164 and -170 favorites. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the fishies, it's anywhere between +150 and +155. For 905, 906, it looks like it's going to be Trevor Williams going for the Mets, and to be determined, it's going to be going for the Miami Marlins. I wouldn't doubt if you wind up getting a Zach Thompson. He's going to be pitching at some point in the doubleheader, someone that wanted to be beginning the season as a starter for the Miami Marlins. But when it comes to this Game 1 matchup between Stroman and Trevor Rogers, since we've got the most tried and true information here, I wound up saying the Mets is more around a -173-ish favorite, and I was willing to take the run line as long as I was willing to get about a +130-ish. I'm seeing a +145. I recognize that the Mets offense certainly has been far from great, but I'm going to take a look at the run line and be able to reduce the juice in this one, because when it comes to the Mets, you do have a pair of guys with 31-plus home runs, Pete Alonso and Javi Baez. Both of these guys hitting in the neighborhood about a 260 to a 265, more like a 258 for Pete Alonso, but certainly has been able to do a little bit of something. Got quite a few guys that they do need to pick it up a little bit for the team. James McCann, Kevin Pillar, Thomas Nido, Michael Conforto, Francisco Lindor, all these guys hitting between about a 222 to a 232. But then you take a look at Brandon Nimmo, he's hitting right around 300 for this bunch. Jonathan VR has been able to do a better job of drawing walks this year. He and Jeff McNeil hitting in that pocket about a 250. And for the Mets, you do have a pretty trustworthy bullpen for this bunch. You've been able to get some really good innings out of Aaron Loup. This guy has a 0.97 ERA. He has been absolutely tremendous. It looks like they've brought up Sean Reed Foley. If they do need a little bit more length, that is probably going to be for Game 2 when you wind up having Trevor Williams go out there, as Williams has gone north of 4 1/3 innings just really once over the last, I would say, 3 or so weeks, so you might need a little bit of help there. But you take a look at someone like an Edwin Diaz, sometimes is a little bit shaky, but by and large has been relatively solid. And then I will say, for the Miami Marlins, the bullpen has been good, and for Trevor Rogers, it's just a case in which he hasn't necessarily come off the injured list and looked too sharp. He's given up at least 4 runs, and now 2 out of his last 3 starts. He has made 4 starts ever since coming off the injured list, and has won 4 1/3 innings or fewer in 3 of them. So length has not necessarily been there. Now I will say, command has actually been very good since he's come off the injured list. 6 walks over the course of his last 4 starts. He's given up just 1 home run in his last 5 starts, dating back to the month of July. So he's been able to do a good job of being able to keep the deep ball down. So that is something that you do want to take a look at. And then with the Miami Marlins, you've been able to get some good innings out of quite a few of these guys out of the bullpen. Steven O'Kurt has right around a 2 ERA. They've been without Austin Pruitt for quite a while, but Anthony Bender, Dylan Flora, these guys have right around 3 ERAs. Richard Blyer, a little bit more than that, but I do think that the Mets are going to be able to get a little bit of something going on offense, especially against a Marlins team that they've been without Jesus Aguilar the last few weeks. He has been the only guy for the team hitting 20-plus home runs. Now, I will say Mr. Jesus Sanchez hitting right around 250. He's been able to supply the boom recently. He has been able to give the team 9 home runs and a 275 batting average over the last 30 days. Brian De La Cruz is back to the fold for the team, hitting at 315. But then you've got quite a few slugs in this lineup as well. Lewis Brinson is out hitting right around 225. Lewin Diaz, you're able to throw in there Joe Panic, Eddie Alvarez, Austin Jackson. List goes on and on of guys. They're hitting a 220 or lower. Jazz Chisholm, he's been able to do a solid job hitting a 250 double-digit amount of homers for him, but I do take a look at this spot. I did wind up making the New York Mets a relatively sizable favorite with Marcus Stroman on the mound because the record doesn't line up with how he's pitched so far this year. A 3 ERA overall, at home a 2.96 ERA. In 15 home starts, he's given up 4 home runs and 19 walks across 73 innings, so he's been rock solid with that regard. Not a ton of swings and misses, more around like 8 strikeouts for 9 innings, but I think that he's more than capable of being able to get the job done in this spot. And it all depends on what we wind up getting from the Miami Marlins in Game 2. I'm going to be setting Trevor Williams as a little bit of a favorite because ever since he's come over to the Mets, it hasn't necessarily been in the world's highest of doses, but he's actually been halfway decent for them. 8 total appearances, 3 starts, 8.270 ERA. I think that he probably winds up going 4 or 5 innings, then passes it off to the bullpen. So this will probably be a spot in which I'll be taking a look at an over. If it is a 6.5 or lower, a 7 or higher, I'll be taking a look at the under. Might wind up going down to a 6 if you wind up getting like a Zach Thompson, if it winds up being more of a just full-on bullpen game for the Miami Marlins, or if you throw out their Paul Gamble, then I'll be setting the Mets as a little bit more of a favorite. Right now, thinking with Williams, it'll probably be more like a minus 140 to a minus 145 money line, but that's where I'm looking there. And then in terms of game one, when it comes to the total to go along with that Mets run line, I want to setting the total at 6.2. So in game one, looking at the over and the Mets, and in game two, probably going to be looking at something where the Mets are right around a minus 140-ish. Just need to know the plan of attack for the Miami Marlins in game two. 903, 904 on the betting board. The Chicago Cubs hit the road to face off against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Mitch Keller is going to be going for the Buccos, and Alec Mills is going to be on the bump for the Cubs. Cubs are finding themselves pretty much across the board at even money, anywhere between minus 102 and plus 102. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the Buccos, you're going to be getting them between minus 108 and minus 115. 8.5 to 9 is your total. On the 8.5, over is minus 120, the under is even. On the 9, the under is anywhere between minus 120 and minus 125. The over is between plus 105 and even. And for Mitch Keller, he's actually been able to put together a couple of decent starts recently. You do want to note, though, that he has been much worse at home than he has been on the road. 3.57 road ERA. In 8 starts on the road, he's given up 5 home runs in 40 and a third innings. He's only given up 5 bombs in 53 and a third innings at home, but opponents are getting a 3.41 off of him in Pittsburgh compared to a 2.79 on the road. That has led to a 7.76 ERA. But you do take a look at Keller recently. Here in the month of September, a 3.32 ERA across his 4 starts. He has allowed 2 runs or fewer and now 3 out of his last 4 starts. And if you want to extend it a little bit further, he has allowed 2 runs or fewer in 5 out of his last 7. So he seems to be putting something together. He has given up a home run in just 1 out of his last 7 starts. I want to being a pair of home runs against the St. Louis Cardinals. So he's really been able to do a solid job. You take a look at Alec Mills, and home to road, he has been relatively consistent in both fronts, actually a little bit better on the road with a 4.58 ERA compared to a 5.07 at home, giving up 5 home runs over the course of 55 innings, so he's been able to do a solid job there. Problem is, opponents are hitting right around a 290 off of him. You take a look at the Chicago Cubs lineup, and you do have a couple guys that have been able to do a very good job for this team. Frank Schwindel seems to have cooled off a little bit, but still, hitting a 333, he's been able to supply 9 bombs over the last 30 days, so he certainly has been able to do his part. Rafael Ortega, someone is hitting a 285 for this bunch. Ian Happ only has right around a 225 batting average for the year, but you take a look at him ever since the beginning of the month of August. A combined 14 home runs, and on-base percentage is hovering in the pocket of right around a 365 over the last 3 days, so he's been able to come to the forefront. You do have Nick Martini, both of the Romines, Trace Thompson, Sergio Alcantara, David Bodie, in the very few appearances that these two have been making. Greg Deichmann, along with Jason Hayward, hitting a 220 or lower, but Matt Duffy hitting a 275 as well. Whenever you've had Nico Horner out there as well, he's been able to get on base. But then you take a look at the Pittsburgh Pirates, and Yoshi Satsugo, ever since coming over to the Pirates, hitting nearly a 308 home runs in about a month and a half, so that has been relatively solid. Brian Hayes, Colin Moran, pair of guys sitting between about a 257 to a 265, and then you've got right around a 265 to 270 batting average when it comes to Wilmer Defoe, so you've been able to get a little bit of something there. Ben Gamel hitting just below a 250, but you do have a couple slugs in this lineup as well. Cole Tucker, Kevin Newman are able to throw in there. Anthony Alford in between a 220 and a 230. You've also got guys like Kai Thomas Company, along with Michael Perez hitting below the middle side of 200. But the good news for the Pirates is that they get David Bernard back in the bullpen. That is very solid for them. You've been able to get some good innings of Chris Stratton along Jason Shreve. And for the Cubs, this is a bullpen that is now very, very rocky. Adam Morgan has been able to give you a little bit of something, but you take a look at Rex Brothers. He's got north of a 5 ERA. Michael Rucker has been getting absolutely destroyed to Rowan Wick, someone with right around a 4.70 ERA. So I do take a look at this spot, and I do think that Mitch Keller is turning over a little bit of a new leaf. So I don't necessarily think that he's going to get trucked as badly as his 7.7 ERA at home would indicate, but at the same time, I do like Alec Mills a little bit more in this spot, so wound up saying the Cubs as a very, very slight favorite. I made this total an 8.7, so I'm going to be diving under, and I'm going to be taking the Cubs right around even money. 905, 906 was a part of that Mets versus Marlins twin bill, so we go to 907, 908 on the betting board. The Atlanta Braves are going to be playing us to the Philadelphia Phillies. Zach Whelan and Dylan Wheeler is going to be going for the Phils, and Charlie Morton is going to be on the bump for the Braves. The Braves are finding themselves in between a minus 118 and minus 125 favorite, and then with the Phillies, you're going to be getting them anywhere between plus 105 and plus 110. Your total on this game is anywhere between 7.5 and 8. On the 8, under is minus 120. The over is even. On the 7.5, Overs anywhere between -110 and -115. The under is anywhere between -110 and -105. And I want to thank the Braves. More like a -150 favorite. Zach Wheeler has been able to rein it in a little bit more recently, but certainly had his trials and tribulations when it came to the month of August. I still remember he wound up having a stretch of 7 starts in which he wound up allowing 4+ runs in 4 of them, so that was not necessarily what you wanted to see there. And then you got a guy in Charlie Morton that I do recognize that he's got nearly a full point better on his ERA whenever he's on the road than he has been at home, but by and large has been very solid. At home has a 4 ERA, giving up 12 home runs in 87 and 2/3 innings compared to 4 home runs, giving up in 88 and 1/3 innings. But then you've got to factor in the fact that the Philadelphia Phillies have been unsightly bad on the road at 34 and 41. Meanwhile, they're 47 and 34 at home, which I think is very intriguing. You take a look at this Philadelphia Phillies team, and the offense has been sputtering a little bit. They were able to explode a little bit in that Pittsburgh Pirates series, but you take a look at them by and large, and they've scored 4 runs or fewer in 5 out of their last 7 games, and that's in series against the Baltimore Orioles and the Pittsburgh Pirates. So that's not necessarily what you want to find, because you've got Bryce Harper doing a little bit of everything. 17 home runs in the last 45 days, 434 on base. He's certainly been able to do his part. Gene Segura is hitting at 295, but who else is going to be able to step up for this team? You've got Didi Gregorius, Brad Miller, and Andrew McCutchen all hitting about a 230 or lower, with McCutchen 333 on base, 24 home runs, so he's done that for this team. But you're then going to need to have someone like Odubel Herrera step up. He, along JT Realmuto, are in between a 262 and 270. You've got Freddie Galvis, who's hitting right around 245 along with Ronald Torreyes. So these guys have been interesting. And it was mentioned by our good friend William Boor that Matt Vierling has been very good for the team, hitting right around 345, so I do give him credit. But then you take a look at this bullpen of the Phillies, and you've got guys like Ramon Rosso, along with Bailey Falter, are not necessarily doing a great job. Ian Kennedy has been able to rein it in a little bit more recently, but you take a look at him ever since coming to Philadelphia, he's got an ERA of a 4.50. He's been far from solid for the team. Sam Coonrod has not been able to do a great job. Archie Bradley is now on the injured list. So I take a look at the Phillies, and I don't think that they match up well with an Atlanta Braves team that they've got a top 8 bullpen ERA ever since the All-Star break. You've been able to have Tyler Madzik really be able to rein it in for this team. Luke Jackson all year long has been solid with right around a 2 ERA. Richard Rodriguez, since coming over to the Atlanta Braves from the Pittsburgh Pirates, he's been able to do his part. And then you just take a look at all the mashers on this team, as you've got Adam Duvall, Austin Riley, Freddie Freeman, Ozzie Albies, all with at least 30 home runs. You've been able to have Riley and Freeman both hit a 300 or greater. Dansby Swanson has 27 home runs for you. Ode Soler, he's got 24 bombs on the year. He's hitting at 260 with the Atlanta Braves. So they're just stockpiled with a bunch of guys. They're able to do a great job of getting on base, which is why I do wind up setting the Braves as a sizable favorite in this spot. I do think that they're going to be able to get to Zach Wheeler. I did wind up setting this total at an 8.7. So I'm going to be taking the Atlanta Braves on the money line to go along with this total over. We move on to my New York Post play of the day. So we've got 909, 910 on the betting board. The St. Louis Cardinals are going to be playing us to the Milwaukee Brewers. Brandon Woodruff is going to be going for the Crew. Meanwhile, Adam Wainwright is going to be on the bump for St. Louis. And the Cardinals are finding themselves anywhere between -105 to +105. Meanwhile, the Brewers are finding themselves anywhere between -111 and -115. 7 is your total. Over is anywhere between -105 and -120. The under is anywhere between even and -115. And for Wainwright, he's coming off a start in which he wound up allowing 5 runs in 4 innings against the Milwaukee Brewers, and he has been rock solid all year long at home. But you wonder if the fact that he's thrown 200 innings for the first time since 2014 is going to catch up with him a little bit. 272 home ERA thus far this year for Wainwright. He's given up 10 home runs at 122 and a third innings at home, and opponents are hitting overall about a 218 off of him. But then you take a look at Brandon Woodruff. He certainly deserves better than the 9-10 record would indicate, and he has been rock solid on the road. 271 road ERA in 15 road starts, has allowed just 8 bombs at 89 and 2/3 innings, with opponents hitting a microscopic $167 off of him. You take a look at the St. Louis Cardinals bullpen, and it has been very solid recently. You've got to give credit to some of the unheralded guys. Luis Garcia has stepped up for them. TJ McFarland has been good. Kwon Young Kim is someone that has become a super reliever for the team. But you also take a look at the Brewers, and I think that they're starting to rein it in. I recognize that Brad Boxberger over the last 30 days has like a 10 ERA, but you still have a guy in Jake Cousins who's been able to do some very good things with this team. Probably going to be unavailable for this game, but you do have Josh Hader along with Devin Williams. These guys have been rock solid. Hunter Strickland Freeland is someone that I think has went a little bit under the radar as well over the last 30 days. He's got right around 2.8 ERA. And then with the Brewers, what is so critical for the team, William Thomas. Before he wound up coming into the fold for the team was averaging 3.65 runs per game. Ever since he wound up coming back, more around 5 runs per game, and he had 2 home runs in that series against the New York Mets. He has been critical for the team, as you've also got Christian Yelich, Eduardo Escobar, Luis Urias, along with Lorenzo Cain, only between about a 245 to a 257. All these guys have relatively solid on bases, including Eduardo Escobar chipping in there 28 home runs. And then you take a look at the St. Louis Cardinals, and you've been able to have a pair of guys really be able to step up and help out Nolan Arenado in the power department, as Arenado has 33 home runs, but Paul Goldschmidt along Tyler O'Neill, a combined 63 home runs, 31 and 32 home runs respectively. It has been really impressive to see. And we got a lot of guys that are in that neighborhood of, I would say, about a 254 to a 270. Umando Sosa is a little bit above that, but he's currently banged up. Jose Rondon, Harrison Bader, Tommy Edman, Dylan Carlson, Arenado, I mentioned, along with Yadier Molina. Even Lars Nootbaar has been able to give you some good at bats. So I take a look at this spot. I think that 7 is a little bit too low. I wound up saying this as a 7.5, but I do think that this is a situation in which the back half of the bullpen is going to be able to halt the St. Louis Cardinals and all the magic that they've been able to have late in these games in which they've had this 16-game win streak. I think a revenge is going to be on the mind of the Brewers. So I wound up making the New York Post play of the day. The Brewers on the money line, I'm willing to lay up to about a minus 128 to a minus 130 in this spot. So taking the Brewers on the money line with my New York Post play of the day. I know that many of you guys are going to have some thoughts with that, and I'm going to be going over as well. 9-11, 9-12 on the betting board. The Colorado Rockies are going to be playing against the Washington Nationals. Patrick Corbin is going to be going for the Nationals. Kyle Freeland is on the bump for the Rockies. 11.5 is your total. Over is anywhere between minus 110 and minus 115. Under is anywhere between minus 110 and minus 105. If you're looking at the Rockies, you're going to be getting them between minus 144 and minus 150. Plus price with Washington is anywhere between plus 130 and plus 135. And for the Washington Nationals, it has been a really tough year for Patrick Corbin, and putting it as politely as I can. A 5.92 ERA. He has allowed 36 home runs in 65 and 2/3 innings. I believe that leads the National League. And on the road, he's actually been a little bit better than at home, but now you have to go to Coors Field. He's allowed 18 home runs in 81 innings on the road. Opponents are getting a 257 off of him on the road compared to a 312 at home, but going to Coors Field is not great. Meanwhile, you take a look at Kyle Freeland, and he has given up 3 earned runs or fewer in now 12 out of his last 15 starts after he wound up having like a north of 9 ERA in his first 6 starts of the year. He's had an ERA that's hovering right around 3 ever since then, so he's done a very nice job of being rated. And here in the month of September in his 5 starts, more on a 5.79 ERA, so we've seen a little bit of regression at home, 5.26 ERA, but a lot of this was due to the fact that he wound up giving up like 9 home runs in his first 5 starts. He was unsightly bad in the first half of the year, and now he's been able to really do a solid job ever since then. And then you take a look at the Colorado Rockies, and you've got a bunch of that at home. It's right around a 280 as a collective at Coors Field. You've got someone in Trevor Story, who overall for the year, sitting right around the Mendoza line on the road, but at home is hitting nearly a 300. You've got someone in CJ Cron, who among his 28 home runs going into yesterday, 19 of them have come at Coors Field. Charlie Blackmon has had all but 2 of his home runs come at home as well, so this is a team that they do a good job in Coors Field. And then you've got a bunch of guys that just pitch better at Coors Field as well. Lucas Gilbreth, a sub-3 ERA coming out of the bullpen at Coors. You've been able to have Daniel Bard have like an 8.5 ERA on the road and a sub-4 ERA at home. And then for the Washington Nationals, Ryan Harper has just all of a sudden failed this team. He's got a north of 7 ERA over the last 30 days. Andres Machado's giving you a little bit of something. Tanner Rainey is back in the fold, and I do really like what I've seen out of Kyle Finnegan, but certainly it's a rough bullpen to say the least. Now with Washington Nationals, power is there with this team. Juan Soto, Jordan Bell, both at least 27 home runs with Soto, right around a 470 on base. Alcides Escobar, along with Keibert Ruiz, are both hitting between about a 275 to a 285. Yadier Hernandez is in that fold as well. Lane Thomas, ever since coming over from the St. Louis Cardinals, he's hitting right around 300. So I do think that the Nationals going to be able to generate some offense. I just think that Corbin winds up getting destroyed in this spot. I wound up setting the Colorado Rockies more on a minus 180 favor with the way that they've been playing at home. Getting a run line of a plus 120 on the Colorado Rockies. Sign me up. I'm going to be taking that run line when it comes to the total. Wound up making the total 11.7. So we're going to be going over along with the Rockies on the run line. 9-13, 9-14 on the betting board. The Arizona Diamondbacks hit the road face off against the San Francisco Giants. Logan Webb is going to be going for the Yankees. Meanwhile, Luke Weaver is going to be on the bump for Arizona. Diamondbacks are finding themselves as big underdogs anywhere between plus 220 and plus 235. Meanwhile, if you're looking at San Francisco, getting them anywhere between minus 260 Muncy at minus 275, seeing as good as a minus 251. 8 to 7.5 is your total. On the 7.5, over is minus 120. The under is even. On the 8, under is anywhere between minus 115 to minus 120. Over is anywhere between even to minus 105. I'll save you the time. Run line that I'm seeing on the Giants is as good as a minus 115 at circa. I'm going to wind up taking that, seeing more around minus 125 in a lot of other spots, but I was willing to lay up to about a minus 140 on the run line with the Giants. The Giants are 17-2 in Logan Webb's last 19 starts. He has allowed 3 runs or fewer in all but 3 of them, so he's been having teams caught up in his web. And then you take a look at Luke Weaver, and he just hasn't necessarily been able to find it ever since coming off the injured list. He has made 4 starts since coming off the injured list. Had a very good first start against the San Diego Padres, who, as we know, they are tail spinning. Ever since then, he has allowed at least 3 runs at every one of them, giving up 5 runs at his last start against the Atlanta Braves, 4 runs to the Dodgers, and then 3 runs to the poopy Texas Rangers. And he has given up, ever since coming off the injured list, a grand total of 5 home runs. It's not a good job with the walks. Only 3 walks allowed, but he's going up against the San Francisco Giants team, in which you've got power upon power upon power, as you've got the Brandon Belt along with Brandon Crawford, along with Chris Bryant, Mike Yastrzemski, all these guys with at least 20 home runs. And then you got all these guys with between 13 and 18 home runs. Darren Ruff, who's currently a little bit banged up, Austin Dickerson, Evan Longoria, Buster Posey, Wilmer Flores, Lamonte Wade. So that is very impressive. And really all these guys, aside from Dickerson, along with Mike Yastrzemski hitting above a 250. Then you take a look at the Arizona Diamondbacks. Your leader in home runs right now is Ketel Marte with 13, because they wound up trading away Eduardo Escobar. You've been able to get a little bit of something out of Carson Kelly as well, but the fact that you just have such little power is really hurting this team. Now, you do have a couple guys that have a batting average that is between, I would say, about a 250 to a 265. David Peralta, Joshua Rojas, Pavin Smith are on that fold, and Dalton Varsho has been able to turn around overall this year, hitting about a 245 with 11 homers, but over the last 3 days, hitting a 300. So you give them a little bit of credit there, but with this Arizona Diamondbacks bullpen, it is unsightly bad. They've been using failed starters like a Taylor Widener, Jake Faria, guys like this out of the bullpen, and it's just not worked for them. Joe Manette-Tipley's been able to give you a little bit of something along the way, Ramirez, but John popping, his ERA is popping. It's right around a 4.9. Luis Frias is absolutely terrible. Tyler Clippard is ancient, and then you've got a San Francisco Giants team that they rank the top 5 when it comes to bullpen ERA over the last 30 days, and overall, I believe that they're still number 1 with regards to bullpen ERA. Tony Watson, since coming over from the LA Angels, has been solid. Dominique Leon has posted up about a $1.60 ERA. Camilo Duval, Kervin Castro, these guys have stepped up in a big way. So I take a look at this spot. I think that the Giants are going to be able to get to Luke Weaver, set this total a little bit north of 8, so I'm going to be taking this total over, and I'm going to be taking the San Francisco Giants on the run line. 9:15, 9:16 on the betting board. The LA Dodgers are going to be playing us to the San Diego Padres. Yu Darvish is going to be going for the Pods. Meanwhile, Walker Buehler is going to be on the bump for the Dodgers. Dodgers are finding themselves between minus 180 and minus 190 favorites. Meanwhile, with the Pods, anywhere between plus 160 and plus 170 is your price. 8 to 7.5 is your total. On the 7.5, over and under are both at minus 110. That is at circa. Everywhere else has an 8. Under is anywhere between minus 115 to minus 120. The over is anywhere between even and minus 105. I set this total at 7.9, so I'm going to take that 7.5 that I'm seeing at circa over, because I've got a little bit of a bigger differential than if I were to take the 8, but I take a look at the Dodgers. On the money line, I set them as right around about a minus 180-ish favorite, but on the run line, I was willing to lay a small price. I'm seeing mostly plus 110s out there with the Dodgers, so I'm going to take that plus price and reduce the juice. You just take a look at Yu Darvish, and this man has been getting absolutely destroyed. In 9 out of his last 13 starts, he's allowed at least 4 runs, and on the road, he has not been good this year. 5.61 road ERA in 12 road starts, giving up 13 bombs in 61 innings. I have no idea what's happened to this guy, but he looked really good going into the All-Star break, and then he just pooped out. And for Walker Buehler, he is coming off a rough start against the Colorado Rockies, but you look at what this man has done at home, and it has been absolutely special. 2.19 home ERA in 17 starts at home, 9-2 record, has given up right around 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, but opponents are getting a $1.96 off of him. And what I think is really impressive about Walker Buehler, in his 31 starts, he's won at least 6 innings in 28 of them. That is consistency, and he's backed up by a Dodgers lineup in which you've got a whole bunch of guys that are able to supply the boom, as you got Max Muncy leading the way with 35 home runs, but all these other guys have between about 20 to 25 home runs. Will Smith, Justin Turner down for what? Trey Turner down for what? Mookie Betts, Chris Taylor. So that has been terrific. AJ Pollock is off the injured list. He's hitting a 300. Corey Seager, he's hitting right around 290. He's been able to pick it up with the power. Heck, Albert Pujols, ever since he was acquired, he's been able to right around 255, so that has been solid for the team. You take a look at the bullpen of the Dodgers, and I do think that a little bit of regression is going to be doing for the team, but they rank second when it comes to bullpen ERA. It's been a lot of guys that you wouldn't expect doing a very good job for the team. I mean, obviously, Blake Tryon is someone that you're able to rely upon, but Alex Vesia has a 2.35 ERA. Phil Bickford right around 2.65 ERA. Joe Kelly's been relatively solid, but then you even get down to someone like Justin Brule having a 3.25 ERA, so they've certainly been able to do their part. And then you take a look at the flip side for the Padres, and going into the month of August, they had the number one bullpen ERA in all of baseball, but these guys like Emilio Pagan, Nabel Crismet, along with even someone like a Pierce Johnson, these arms are just tired. They have been overused, and with you, Darvish, not landing good starts, it has been bad news. Like I said, seeing the 7.5 that I'm getting at circa right now, I'm going to be taking that over. And with the Dodgers, I was willing to lay a price on the run line, so going to be taking the plus 110, laying a run and a half with the Dodgers to go along with that over. 917, 918 on the betting board. You got the Baltimore Orioles, and they're going to be playing us to the Boston Red Sox. Chris Sale is going to be going for the Sox. Meanwhile, Bruce Zimmerman is going to be going for the Baltimore Orioles. 9.5 is your total. Unders anywhere between minus 115 and minus 120. Overs between even at minus 105. If you're looking at the Sox, you're going to be getting them between minus 255 and minus 275. Meanwhile, your plus price with the Orioles is a very low number of plus 220 to a plus 230 compared to what you should be getting in this game, because I set the Red Sox as north of a $3 favorite. I was willing to lay it up to about a minus 180 on the run line. Currently, I'm finding that between a minus 160 to a minus 165, so sign me up. You take a look at Bruce Zimmerman, and this is going to be his first start since dinosaurs wound up roaming the earth. It has been quite a while for our good buddy. He actually went 4-4 when he was a starter, but his last start wound up coming on June 13th. He hasn't necessarily been able to build up a ton of innings with rehab starts or anything like that, so you got to figure that he's going to throw a couple innings, and then you get the Baltimore Orioles bullpen, which over the last 3 days has an ERA of 7. Yeah, that is not what you want. Connor Green has been getting absolutely destroyed. You've got someone like Zach Lawther who's been getting starts after he was coming out of the bullpen. He's been terrible. Eric Handel is right around a 4.3 ERA. I will say Cole Sulzer has been good for the team, but now you've got Tanner Scott on the injured list. Alexander Wells is someone that has been promoted to being a starter. He hasn't been great. Spencer Watkins wound up getting demoted. He's got an 8.42 ERA, so you're mixing and matching with the Orioles, and just all their pitching sucks right now. Meanwhile, you take a look at Chris Sale, and I think the proper word here to use for him is stability. He's made 7 starts for the team. He's got right around 2.5 ERA. It just feels like in every one of his starts, he's going between 5 and 6 innings, giving up 2 runs, really nothing more, really nothing less. He hasn't been blown up in any of his starts. He has given up 2 earned runs or fewer in every one of them. He was a victim of some unearned runs, and he started against the Tampa Bay Rays, but he has given up the deep ball a little bit. He has given up 5 home runs thus far, so that is a little bit of an issue, but he's backed up by a bullpen that, even though it hasn't necessarily been great since the beginning of August, you do have back a pair of guys in Matt Barnes along there to Kazusa Sawamura that was spending some time on the COVID-19 list. I think that you're going to be able to get some good innings out of Darwinson Hernandez this final week. Adam Ottavino has been able to do a solid job as well. And then you take a look at the Boston Red Sox lineup, and it is locked, loaded, and ready for bear. We'll end up having a rough series against the New York Yankees, so what's the best get well present? Well, it is our good friends, the Baltimore Orioles. As you've got Xander Bogaerts, Bobby Dalbec, JD Martinez, Kyle Schwarber, Hunter Renfroe, Rafael Devers, all with at least 23 home runs so far this year for Devers, 35 bombs, 108 RBI. You've got pretty much all these guys aside from Dalbec hitting above a 250. And with Dalbec, you take a look at him over the last 30 days, and it's really gone under the radar. He's got 8 home runs and is hitting at 275 in this time span, so he's been able to put it together. Kike Hernandez has been able to do a solid job over the last 30 days as well. Alex Verdugo is someone who's hitting at 290. Then you take a look at the flip side for the Baltimore Orioles, and the best quality of this team has been the bats, as you've got Cedric Mullins along with Ryan Mountcastle, both giving you between 30 and 31 home runs. You've got Mountcastle, who's been able to do a solid job of being able to hit for this team. He, Austin the Sayes kid, Trey Boom Boom Mancini, Pedro Severino, Anthony Santana, lying between about a 241 to a 258, throwing there Richie Martin as well. You've also had quite a bit of something of Cedric Mullins hitting at 300, so you've got those guys having it going on, but then you've got Kelvin Gutierrez, DJ Turn It Up Stewart, Pat Faleka, Ryan McKenna, Austin Wins, Jahmai Jones, all hitting a 220 or lower, so that's been really bad. I think that the Orioles just get absolutely pulverized in this spot. I think that the Red Sox are going to be threatening a touchdown with the extra point, so I take a look at this spot, and I'm going to be taking the Red Sox on the run line, set this all at 9.8, despite the fact that you've got Sale going, so we're going to be taking the run line of the Boston Red Sox, and I'm going to be taking this total over. 919, 920 on the betting board. You've got the Toronto Blue Jays playing host to the New York Yankees. Jameson Dion is going to be going for the Yankees. Hyun-Jin Ryu is going to be going for the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays are finding themselves in between about a -117 to a -125 favorite. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the Yankees, you're going to be getting them in between a +105 to a +113, with 9 to 9.5 being your total. On the 9, over is -115, and the under is -105 on the 9.5. Under is anywhere between -110 and -125. The over is anywhere between +105 and -110. And with Taillon, it certainly has been up and down. He was the pitcher of the month in the American League in the month of July, and then in the month of August, things wound up becoming a little bit more sour for him. You take a look at Taillon, this is going to be his first start ever since September 6th, so it's been a little bit for him, and prior to going on the injured list, you could tell that he was badly scuffling, giving up at least 3 runs in each out of his previous 5 starts, and in that time span, he wound up giving up 7 home runs as well with his last start, ironically enough, being against the Toronto Blue Jays, a game in which the team wound up losing by a count of 8-0, but if you want to go back, this is a bunch of which they are 8-2 in Taillon's last 10 starts as well, so they've been able to perform well whenever he's been on the bump. And for Hyun-Jin Ryu, this is someone that he wound up missing a couple of days due to an injury of his own. I believe that he wound up spending a small stint on the 10-day injured list, and now he's coming back. But you take a look at Ryu, and he's been uncharacteristically bad recently. He has given up at least 3 runs in 5 out of his last 7 starts, so that is a little bit of an issue. And he has given up a grand total of 7 home runs over the course of his last 4 starts, so it's sort of a something's got to give scenario. I do like the bats of the Blue Jays more than I do the New York Yankees, because you take a look at it, you've got a pair of guys with more than 40 home runs in Vlad Guerrero Jr., Marcus Semien, a combined 89 home runs between these two guys, with Guerrero hitting a .315 for this bunch. It's absolutely magnificent. You've got Teoscar Hernandez hitting above a 331 home runs, Bo Bichette along with Lourdes Gurriel, both hitting between a .285 to a .290, and Lourdes Gurriel, by the way, has really put together a nice 30 days in which he's got well north of a 300 batting average, and for Bichette, he's been able to give you 26 home runs. Heck, even Randall Grichuk, 22 home runs for this bunch. And then you take a look at the Yankees, and you do have a trio of guys that have been able to give you at least 32 home runs in Joey Gallo, Aaron Judge, along Giancarlo Stanton. And Stanton wound up having a monster series against the Boston Red Sox, which was absolutely massive for them. You take a look at what you're all getting with guys getting on base. Giancarlo Stanton, I mentioned a little bit earlier, DJ Turn It Up LeMahieu, both of these guys in between about a 270 to a 280, and then you've got Gleyber Torres, Gio Urshela, Anthony Rizzo, all these guys in between about a 250 to a 265, so got quite a bit of something there. Now with the Yankees, what I think is big is that Jonathan Loaiza has been on the injured list, so that has hurt the bullpen a little bit, but Lucas Luque is giving you some good innings. I like what I've seen recently out of Wandy Peralta as well. He's had an up and down season, but over the last 30 days, he's got an ERA that is hovering right around about a 3.5. Over the last 15 days is really where it's gotten good from, about a $1.60 ERA. Luis Severino is now someone that you're able to turn to out of the bullpen along with Michael King, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Yankees wind up getting a little bit of long relief in this one, and wouldn't be surprised if the Blue Jays have to turn to their bullpen as well. Adam Simber has been rock solid for this team, but you have had some issues with guys like Julian Merriweather and company, but I do think that Jordan Morano is going to be able to lend a little bit of something in this spot. And when it comes to the Blue Jays, I was willing to set them as a pretty good favorite in this spot. I wound up setting them as a -134 favorite, so we're going to be taking a shot there. And when it comes to this total, I set it a little bit north of 9.5, because both of these starters certainly have been scuffling recently, so I'm going to be taking the over, and I'm going to be taking the Blue Jays. 921, 922 on the betting board. The Detroit Tigers are going to be in the road to face off against the Minnesota Twins. Good old to be determined is going to be going for the Minnesota Twins. Meanwhile, you've got Tyler Alexander who's going to be going for the Tigers, so this is a game that's presently off the board. I was seeing Joe Ryan a little bit earlier for the Minnesota Twins, and if we would be getting Ryan, I'd be saying the Minnesota Twins is right around a -130 favorite. Problem is, we've seen guys like an Andrew Albers wind up getting starts for the team. I don't think that he's going to be getting the call here, but you take a look at some of the guys that the Twins have trotted out there, it's not great. Now, if they do wind up using a bullpen game, Ralph Garza Jr. has actually been very solid, and the Twins bullpen in general, over the last 30 days, actually ranks right around 5th in the big leagues with regards to ERA, so they've been able to come on strong. And for the Tigers, despite the fact that you've got a couple of injuries in their bullpen with Jose Cicerno along with Gregory Soto currently being out, they've got a top 10 bullpen ERA ever since the All-Star break. And for the Detroit Tigers, they've been well above 500 ever since the All-Star break. They did wind up having a tough one yesterday in which they wound up losing a made-up game against the Chicago White Sox, but you do have quite a few guys that have been able to do a solid job of being able to get on base for this team. Jamir Candelario, Jonathan Scope, Akil Badu, Miguel Cabrera, all guys in between about a 258 to as high as a 278 in the case of Scope. Now, with Johnson Scope, he went deep yesterday, but I think that's like his 4th home run ever since the All-Star break. Robbie Grossman along with Eric Koss, both of these guys have right around 23 home runs. They've really slowed down with their home run power recently, but for Grossman, right around 355 on base. You got Jamier Candelaria with a 350 on base. Isaac Paredes only right around 225, but a 340 on base for him. You've been able to get a little bit of something out of Harold Castro hitting at 280 as well. And then you take a look at the flip side for the Minnesota Twins, and you've got either guys hitting really, really well or really, really sucky. You take a look at Ore Polanco. He has been incredible for the team, hitting at 270, 31 home runs. Miguel Sano, I recognize that the batting average is a 219, but ever since the beginning of the month of August, he's got right around a 330 on base. He's been able to give you 29 home runs. Josh Donaldson, right around a 350 on base, 24 home runs. But then you just take a look at all these guys, and they're all hitting a 224 or lower. Andrelton Simmons, Mr. Sano, I mentioned, Max Kepler, Brent Rooker, Ryan Jeffers, Jake Cave, Ben Rotfit, list goes on and on. So that is a little bit of an issue. And for Tyler Alexander, if you look at most profitable pitchers in baseball, he's actually been one of the best ones. The Detroit Tigers have actually been very solid whenever he's taken the mound. You take a look at it, and this is a bunch that is now 9-4 in the last 13 games that he's pitched in, and he has been rock solid. This is a man that has allowed 3 earned runs or fewer in now 9 out of his last 10 pitching appearances. Not a guy that has necessarily went very deep into starts, but you take a look at him here in the month of September, 2 home runs given up over the course of 19 and 2/3 innings, 3.20 ERA, so he's been able to perform quite well. I take a look at the spot, and if it is like Tyler Alexander against a bullpen game of the Minnesota Twins, we'll be probably setting this with the Tigers probably being like a -110-ish favorite. If you wind up getting Joe Ryan, who's been solid of the Minnesota Twins, I'd be setting the Twins more like a -130 favorite, so I do think that there's a sizable difference between someone like a Joe Ryan and the bullpen game. But check back in the morning by Twitter feed at JRS41, as we need to know what the Twins are going to be doing here, and this would be a spot in which, if it's a bullpen game against Alexander, a 9 or lower, we'll be taking a look at the over 9.5 or higher to the under. 923, 924 on the betting board. The LA Angels are going to be hitting the road to face off against the Texas Rangers. AJ Alexy is going to be going for the Rangers. Becky Naughton is going to be going for the Angels. What a great name, and what a great line, as it's a relative pick'em in this one. For the Texas Rangers, going to be finding them as good as a +102, as bad as a -110. With the Angels, as bad as a -112, as good as a -102. And your total on this game is 9, with the over anywhere between -110 and -120. Unders anywhere between even and -110. For Alexy, when he's been used as a starter, he has been very good. Alexy, show me the stats for AJ Alexy. Yep, I had to make that joke, but you take a look at it, and in the starts that you want to make, very, very solid. First 2 starts against the Angels and the Colorado Rockies, team wound up winning both of them. He wound up pitching in that span 11 scoreless innings, and then he got brought out in the bullpen in the game against the Houston Astros a few weeks ago, gives up 6 runs in 3 2/3 innings. He then winds up going up against the Yankees, giving up 4 runs in 3 1/3 innings. So this is someone that, when you're able to clear things for him, you're able to give him a clear start. He is able to do a very solid job. Don't have him come out of the bullpen. Meanwhile, for Becky Naughton, he has made 4 starts, 2 relief appearances, and it's not been going well for him recently. He's given up at least 3 runs in 3 out of his last 4 appearances. He's given up 3 home runs and 4 walks in his last 2 appearances, which is spanning 6 2/3 innings. And you take a look at him at the minor league level, he had north of a 4 ERA. I did not like what I saw there. And for the Angels, I don't like what I'm seeing out of this bullpen, as quite a few guys like Andrew Wands, AJ Ramos, you're able to throw on there James Hoyt with just unsightly bad ERA. Steve Cishek will be able to give you a little bit of something. Rossio Iglesias, whenever he's closing out games, has been very solid. But then you take a look at the Texas Rangers, and you've been able to get a little bit of something out of Spencer Penn. Gerald Cotton has really been good out of the bullpen in the last 3 days. He's got a 0.6 ERA in his last 10 appearances, so he's been able to do the job. He's often able to give you multiple innings. Joe Barlow has a sub-2 ERA, so I think that that's big for the Rangers. Now, with the Rangers, this is an offense that has not been good. Adolis Garcia has 30 home runs so far this year, but just 3 of them have come in the last 30 days. Isaiah Canero-Falefa, you're able to throw in there Endy Ibanez, Nate Lowe, Willie Calhoun, only between about a 263 to 272, but really, other than Garcia, you don't have a lot of power, as you do have a guy in Nick Solak who's been able to give you 11 home runs. DJ Turner Peters, he's been able to give you right around 11 homers, and he wound up having a nice run in August. He has really went dry. He's added a home run in about 2 weeks, and then got a lot of guys that they need to pick it up with the batting averages. You've got Brock Holt, Jason Martin, you're able to throw in there Jonah Heim, Leody Taveras, owing a 215 or lower. And then for the Angels, Shohei Ohtani, ever since July 28th, has been hitting right around a 205 for this bunch, and it's not been great. You got Brandon Marsh along with Mr. Ohtani, able to throw in there Phil Gosselin, Jared Walsh, and David Fletcher, all in between about a 258 to a 270. But for Fletcher, ever since the beginning of the month of August, he's been hitting right around a 225. For Walsh, he's got 5 home runs ever since the All-Star break as well. Jack Mayfield is hitting about a 210 for the team. Kurt Suzuki giving you a tad bit of something, but I do take a look at the spot. I think that AJ Alexi is going to be able to do a little bit better than Mr. Naughton in this spot, so I did wind up saying the Rangers as a minus 126 favorite because I do like their bullpen a little bit more. I did wind up saying the Soul at an 8.9 because with both of these teams, they are the 2 lowest scoring teams in baseball, and more specifically the American League, ever since the All-Star break. So we're going to be diving under, and I'm going to be going with the Texas Rangers. 925, 926 on the bang board. The Cleveland Indians hit the road to face off against the Kansas City Royals. Brady Singer is going to be going for the Royals. Aaron Savali is going to be going for the Cleveland Indians. Now you've got 2 lines on this game, and they're completely different. At DraftKings, you've got a total of 7.5 with the over at minus 120 and the under at even, with the Royals at minus 130 and the Indians at plus 110. Meanwhile, at Circa, you've got the Indians at minus 108, the Royals at minus 102, and a total of 9 with the under at minus 115 and the over at minus 105. So shop around accordingly here. I set the Royals as a minus 122 favorite. I made this total an 8.9, so I really like the over if you're getting a 7.5, and I really like the Kansas City Royals if you're getting a minus 102. So you've got just a lot of what you do going on here, for lack of a better term. But you take a look at Brady Singer, and one thing that he's done a really good job of is keeping down the deep ball whenever he's been at home. It is absolutely insane what he's been able to do. He's got a 4.70 home ERA, but in 14 starts at home, 69 total innings, he's given up 1 home run and opponents are at 296 off of him. I don't think I've ever seen that before in my life. And then you take a look at Aaron Savali, and ever since he's come off the injured list, he's looked relatively solid. He's made 4 starts coming off the injured list. He's given up 1 run against the Minnesota Twins, 0 runs in 6 innings against the New York Yankees. Then he wound up giving up a combined 14 runs in 4 2/3 innings against the Chicago White Sox and the Milwaukee Brewers. So it's been the best of times, and it's been the worst of times for Aaron Savali ever since he's come off the injured list. Overall, he's been giving up the deep ball, right around 1.75 home runs per 9 innings overall this year, but he's done his best work on the road. A 3 ERA away from Cleveland. Meanwhile, at home, a 4.82 ERA. In 9 road starts, he's given up 9 home runs in 57 innings, 12 and 56 innings. At home, and opponents are getting a 223 off of him. Does a good job of being able to keep the walks down. Overall for the year, has given up right around 2.1 walks per 9 innings. And you take a look at this Kansas City Royals bunch, and it certainly has been a little bit tough for them with the bats. You do have a quadrant of guys that are hitting at least a 275 for you. Whit Merrifield, Salvador Perez, Ender Benintendi, along Vinky Lopez. Lopez is hitting more around a 309. And so Alberto has made right around about a 265 to a 270. And Kyle Isbell, in a small sample size, is also hitting at 280, but what is of real intrigue is Salvador Perez. 46 home runs, tied for the league lead, 117 RBI. That leads the league as Vlad Guerrero Jr. searches for that triple crown. Now, you do have Carlos Santana, who is not providing a lot of protection, hitting just a 210 with a 320 on base, but with the Royals, their bullpen has been in the top 7 with regards to ERA ever since the All-Star break. You did wind up having Joel Payampas wind up getting used up yesterday, but Domingo Tapia has been able to give you some good innings along Josh Staumont, Jake Brentz, along Scott Barlow. These guys have ERAs are sub-3 as well, so I like what I'm seeing there. Then when you take a look at the Cleveland Indians, you've got Emmanuel Clase, who's just been terrific all year long. Was used yesterday, but only for 13 pitches, so he could conceivably come back in this one. You've been able to get some good innings out of Blake Parker with right around a 2.6 ERA. Nick Wickren has just been all over the place this year, but even take a look at someone like a Justin Garza, and in limited doses, he's been able to give you a couple solid innings, so I do think that this is an Indians bullpen that is going to be able to hold up at the point of attack, but I do think that Brady Singer is going to be able to rein it in. He's been a little bit unlucky at home, and I think that luck is going to turn around, and for Aaron Savali, he's been brutal since coming off the injured list, but both of these offenses in general aren't necessarily that great. You do take a look at the Cleveland Indians, and you've been able to get a little bit of something out of Mr. Jose Ramirez and Franmil Reyes. They combined 66 home runs between these two, and you just take a look at the lineup in general. You've got Harold Ramirez, you're able to throw in there Miles Straw and Franmil Reyes. All these guys are in between about a 250 to a 265. You've got a lot of guys that they do need to pick it up with regards to their batting averages. You've got Ernie Clement, Bradley Zimmer, Yu Chang. You're able to throw in there Daniel Johnson, about a 220 to a 235, and then you've got all these guys hitting at 210 or lower, and Bobby Bradley, Andres Jimenez, Owen Miller, Jake Bowers, Austin Hedges, Roberto Perez, so that has been a big issue for this team. Wound up setting, like I said, the Royals as a minus 122 favorite, and this is a spot in which, if I'd be getting that 7.5, I would certainly be taking it over. I wound up taking the total at an 8.9, so 8.5 or lower, I'm going to be taking a look at the over 9.5 or higher to the under. 927, 928 on the betting board. Tampa Bay Rays hit the road face-off against the Houston Astros. Jose Urquidy is going to be going for the Astros. Meanwhile, Michael Wacha, and we use our dying Pac-Man voice for him. Waka, 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 going to be going for the Rays. You've got the Rays fighting themselves, and we're trading a plus 119 and a plus 125 underdog. Meanwhile, with Urquidy and company, anywhere between minus 130 and minus 140, and your total on this game is anywhere between 9 and 9.5. On the 9, over is anywhere between minus 115 and minus 120. The under is anywhere between even minus 105 on the 9.5. Under is minus 120, and the over is even. I do think that it's going to be waka, 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 for the Rays in this spot, because you just take a look at Michael Wacha, and the Rays have been able to do such a great job with just about everyone that they brought in, except Michael Wacha, who's got a 5.49 ERA. He's just hurt beyond repair at this point. It's absolutely insane what we've seen out of Michael Wacha. And on the road, a 6.56 ERA. He has made 12 starts, 14 total appearances, given up 14 bombs and a 309 opponent's batting average in 59 innings. It has not been great. Now, the good news is he's not walking as many guys as he did while he was with St. Louis and company, right around 2.2 walks per 9 innings. But you take a look at Mr. Urquidy, and he's been very good at home. A lifetime strikeout to walk rate at home, hovering right around 9, a 3.15 ERA in 8 starts so far this year at home. Has given up 6 home runs in 40 innings, but only 5 walks, and opponents hitting a 2.03 off of him. He's backed up by a bullpen with Kendall Graveman doing a solid job. Yimi Garcia has been up and down, but you've got Ryan Presley with a sub-2.5 ERA, so these guys have been able to do a solid job for you. And then you take a look at the lineup. You've got all these guys with at least 24 home runs, and all these guys hitting at least a 276. Jose Altuve, Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker, Carlos Correa, and then you've got Yuli Gurriel hitting above a 3. Michael Brantley's been out of the fold, so you look at Jose Siri, and he's been able to do a good job of being able to fill in for this team. Elamendy Diaz is hitting right around 270 with a little bit of pop. Chas McCormick, he's been hitting right around 260. 13 home runs over the course of about 275 at-bats, so you've got a lot of good things going on there. And then with the Tampa Bay Rays, you do have a tree of guys that will give you at least 30 home runs. Nelson Cruz, Brandon Lau, Mike Zunino, and then you've got Austin Meadows, who's got 26 home runs, 103 RBI, only hitting about a 233, but a 315 on base. Brandon Lau's hitting about a 240, but 336 on base for him. Yandy Diaz is hitting about a 260, 354 on base. You then have now Wander Franco off the injured list, has a 41 game on base streak, so that is rock solid. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, you've got to love this bullpen. JP Fireeyes along Pete Fairbanks are giving you good innings. You wound up getting Nick Anderson off the injured list. Looks like he might be banged up a little bit again, and you've been dealing with that having Andrew Kittredge, which is why I do wind up devaluing the Rays a little bit more in this spot, but you still have a relatively solid bullpen. I do think that Urquidy, though, is going to do a good job against the Tampa Bay Rays bunch. I did wind up saying the solo at 9.2 just because I do think that Wacha is just going to get hit around, and wound up saying the Astros is more around a minus 152 favorite. And the run line that I'm seeing right now for the Astros, that is anywhere between a plus 135 to a plus 140. I'm going to reduce the juice just because I think that Wacha gets banged around. I'm going to be taking this total over, and I'm going to lay the run and a half with the Astros with that plus price. 929, 930 on the betting board. The Oakland A's hit the road to face off against the Seattle Mariners. I was seeing Yusei Kikuchi going for the Seattle Mariners. Just when I came on this podcast, he was removed. So I have this handicapped as if it is going to be Kikuchi against Chris Bassett, but just know that there are some question marks with this. So you've got right now the Oakland A's when it was supposed to be Kikuchi versus Mr. Bassett, with Bassett and company being right around a minus 116 to a minus 125 favorite. Meanwhile, with Seattle, anywhere between plus 105 and plus 110. It is your total. Over is anywhere between minus 110 and minus 115. The under is anywhere between minus 105 and minus 110. Like I said, this literally got removed just when I jumped on this podcast. So I don't know necessarily what's happening with this one, but I would think that it's probably just a little bit cautionary because ESPN still has Mr. Kikuchi with the start in this spot. And if it is Kikuchi versus Chris Bassett, I'd be willing to take the Mariners as long as I'd be getting at least a plus 114. I set the Athletics as minus 114 and a total of an 8.8. But with Mr. Kikuchi, what has been really problematic for him is just the fact that he's been getting banged around in general. He's given up now at least 3 runs in 7 out of his last 9 starts. He has not been good. A 7.82 ERA here in the month of September. Not necessarily giving up home runs either. He's given up 1 home run in his last 6 starts. He's just getting banged around. So I find that to be very intriguing, and he's been relatively equal home to road. 4.21 home ERA, 4.61 road ERA. Has bumped up the strikeouts this year, but he's just giving up a lot of the deep ball, and his walks per 9 is not necessarily been terrific either, as he's given up right right around 3.5 walks per 9 innings. Meanwhile, you take a look at Chris Bassett, and his first start since coming off the injured list, 3 scoreless against the Seattle Mariners. Bullpen from there wound up lighting the game on fire as they wound up piggybacking him with James Caprillion. I could see something similar here. I think that Bassett probably going to give you more like 5 innings, and Bassett all year long has been very solid for this Oakland A's team. 3.75 road ERA compared to a 2.44 home ERA, giving up just 9 home runs at 84 innings on the road, and overall opponents are right in the neighborhood about a 2.17 off of them. So I like what I've seen there with the Athletics. This is a bunch of which you got a lot of guys with at least a 3.45 on base with this team. Tony Kemp, you're able to throw in there the Marte Parte of Starling Marte, Matt Olson, Mark Canha, Josh Harrison is in that fold as well. Then you got a lot of guys in between about 15 to 17 home runs. Jed Lowry, Mark Canha, Seth Brown, you're able to throw in there Sean Murphy. And for Matt Chapman, he has 27 home runs so far this year, only hitting at 215. His batting average here in the month of September has went to poop, but that's why you've got Matt Olson, 38 bombs, 109 RBI going into last night. And then with the Seattle Mariners, a lot of guys that aren't necessarily doing great when it comes to batting average, but a pair of guys with 35 home runs going into yesterday. In Mitch Haniger along Kyle Seager. Now with Kyle Seager throwing there Ore Mamaloe, Sherrick Kelenic, Dylan Moore, Tom Murphy, Cal Raleigh, list goes on and on of guys they're hitting a 220 or lower. But Luis Torrens, overall for the year, he's only hitting at 240. But you take a look at him in the last 30 days, he's been hitting at 313. Abraham Toro, ever since he's come over to the Seattle Mariners, he's been able to do some nice stuff. As going into yesterday, batting average with Seattle right around a 260. J.P. Crawford is hitting at 270 for this bunch. Ty France is hitting at 290. And the Seattle Mariners lead the league with regards to one-run wins, along with wins in extra innings, as they've got a bullpen that's been really good. Drew Steckenrider has an ERA that hovers right around about a 2.1. You've been able to get some very good innings out of Casey Sadler, Paul Sewald. Heck, for less of an extent, whenever you've thrown out there Sean Doolittle, he has done a lot for you, so that has been very solid. And then for the Oakland A's, over the last 30 days, a north of 5 ERA, and really over the last 45 days, a north of 5 ERA. Lou Trevino looks completely lost for this team. Sergio Romo has just completely hit the skids. Jake Diekman, his ERA is going up and up and up. Over the last 30 days, he's got an 8.10 ERA, so it has not been going well for the Oakland A's with that regard. So if it winds up being Kikuchi against Chris Bassett, I'll probably try to see if a little bit of money comes in on the Oakland A's and take a plus price with the Seattle Mariners. Right now, this is a little bit of wait and see mode because, like I said, you take Kikuchi's name while getting pulled off the board, so I'm not sure what that's about. But if it would be Kikuchi versus Chris Bassett, I'd be setting the Seattle Mariners as a plus 114 underdog, and I made this total an 8.8. So an 8.5 or lower would be taking a look at the over, which getting 8s, I'd be taking a look at that over, and a 9 or higher would be taking a look at the under. And we wrap things up with 931, 932 on the betting board. The Chicago White Sox playoffs to the Cincinnati Reds. We are on to Cincinnati, and they're on to Riley O'Brien getting the start. Oh boy, and Reynaldo Lopez is on the bump for the White Sox. You've got the White Sox finding themselves as a favorite, and rightfully so, of anywhere between minus 162 and minus 175. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the Red Legs, you're going to be getting them between plus 149 and plus 160, with your total on this game 9.5. Unders anywhere between minus 115 and minus 125. The overs anywhere between minus 105 and plus 105. With Mr. O'Brien, he's been a highly touted prospect for this team, but I don't see it with him. He wound up having a 4.55 ERA with Louisville this year. I mean, I just take a look at these numbers at the minor league level. I've watched a little bit of tape on him, and to say that I'm not impressed would be an understatement. I mean, it's just one of these cases in which I don't know why he's getting the start here. I recognize the fact that they wound up getting the young guy the start that they did yesterday in Mr. San Martin, but I mean, this is someone that he's given up 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, 4.5 walks per 9. He doesn't have great command. It's not like he's got electrifying stuff or anything like that. And with Reynaldo Lopez, it certainly has been going a little bit more sour for him ever since they've stretched him out. He has not necessarily been too great for this team, but you gotta figure that the White Sox are going to be putting up runs aplenty in this spot, because you do take a look at the Chicago White Sox lineup, and it is very good. Luis Robert is hitting at 345 for this bunch. Tim Anderson is hitting right around 300. You've got all these guys hitting between about a 263 to a 267. Lori Garcia, Jose Abreu, Yoel Moncada a 375 on base with Mr. Jose Abreu. He has been towards the top of the league when it comes to RBI with north of 110 of them. You've had Yasmani Grandal really doing great things ever since he's come off the injured list. Since coming off the injured list, hitting at 338, he has been able to go deep 6 times in his last 74 at-bats. So yeah, he's been able to do some nice things for this team. You take a look at even someone like an Eloy Jimenez. In 255, he's went a little bit cold with regards to the deep ball, but he certainly is able to provide a lot of something for the White Sox. They did wind up having to burn through quite a bit of their bullpen yesterday. Liam Hendricks has been used up quite a bit. He might not be available in this game, but you've been able to get a little bit of something out of Ryan Burr. He winds up getting used up yesterday, but you've still got Michael Kopech in the bullpen. He's able to give you some good innings. I do like what I've seen out of Craig Kimbrell as well. He did not wind up getting used up yesterday. And then you take a look at what you're able to get out of Mr. Reynaldo Lopez, and it has certainly been up and down. He's given up at least 3 runs in 3 out of his last 4 starts, but I do think that he's going to be able to rein it in a little bit more here. He has given up 5 home runs over the course of his last 4 starts as well, but this is also a Cincinnati Reds team that they are a little bit banged up when it comes to their bats. Nick Castellanos has no doubt been able to do a lot of very good things with this team. He and Joey Votto, both 33 to 35 home runs apiece. With both of these guys, their on-base percentages are north of a 360. You've got Max Schrock hitting above a 300. Jonathan India, 380 on-base at the leadoff spot with north of 20 home runs, and Eugenio Suarez only a $193, but 29 home runs. And you look at him over the last 3 days, and he's been hitting a 305, so that has been very nice for the team because you are still dealing with injuries to Jesse Winker along Taylor Naquin, which means that you're giving starts to guys like Delino DeShields Jr., TJ Friedel and company, so that's not necessarily been too terrific. And for the Reds, their bullpen has actually been very good recently. They've got a top 10 bullpen ERA over the last 30 days. You've got guys like Luis Cessa along with Michael Givens giving you some good innings. Lucas Sims, after having a rough start to the year, he's been able to come through with a couple of nice innings, but I just don't understand why Riley O'Brien is getting the start in this spot. I wound up saying the total at 10, so I'm going to be taking it over. With the White Sox, set them as a $194 favorite on the run line. You're seeing them anywhere between a plus 110 to a plus 115. I was willing to lay about a minus 120 in this spot, so I'm taking the White Sox on the run line to go along with the total over, and that'll wrap things up for the Baseball Betting Podcast on this Tuesday. A big thanks to William Boor of MLB.com and MLB Pipeline for joining me in the last segment. If you like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you, you're able to fire these in one of 2 ways. First way is my Twitter timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, the letter ZM naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And I'm going to be coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, which means coming at you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in.